still.
Oh, okay.
But that's Hurley time.
It's the best time.
Okay, Sepulveda, it's 5 o'clock, board members.
Okay. I'd like to call the regular meeting of Cobre Board of Education into session. It is 5 o'clock. Please let the minutes show that Mr. Cordova, Mr. Guadiana, Mr. Holguin, Mr. Gomez, are you in? Mr. Gomez? I don't see Mr. Gomez and myself are in. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag, the state of New Mexico. This is a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Entertain a motion for approval of agenda items.
Gomez, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Second.
This is Gabe, I'll second.
Oops.
Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any questions? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Wanna come over? Okay, good.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Cordova,
Yes.
myself, yes. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of December 14th.
Frank Cordova, so move.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
This is Gilbert, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any corrections to the minutes? Any corrections to minutes? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Cordova,
Yes.
myself, yes. Motion carried. Moves us to update on unfinished business. Item A.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is review on status of school re-entry or continuation of every board meeting. We're going to open up with this, and we'll have Ms. Barrela present at this point.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. A few items looking at the re-entry. When we're looking at the county levels in New Mexico, Grant County continues to be in the red. The only county in New Mexico that is currently in yellow is Catron County. The next update for the county colors will be on Monday, January 13th. Currently, Grant County does have 1,094 total cases, and the 7-day average for COVID cases in Grant County is 19. Cobre District did start vault testing, which is the COVID at-home testing. We started last week on Monday, and we had 22% of our staff who tested, did surveillance testing last week. We did get the revised re-entry plan uploaded on the district webpage, social media sites, and it was emailed to all students in the district as well. On the hotspots, we did apply for the T-Mobile 1 million project grant. And based on that grant, we did receive an additional 42 hotspots. What the grant allows us is we still have to pay for the hotspots. The 100 hotspots that we had purchased in the fall, we had to pay $20 per month for each hotspot. So this grant allows us to pay a reduced rate of $15 per month. So we are currently distributing those additional hotspots to schools as they need them. We did start special education small groups this week at all schools, well, most schools, and the other schools, which would be Snell and San Lorenzo, will begin special ed small groups next week. As far as the vaccinations for COVID-19, the county is currently administered, latest word I got today was that they administered 1,000 vaccines. They're still on Tier 1A, which includes medical staff, first responders, nursing homes. Educators have been moved up to Tier 1B. So last week, I did send out information to the staff on how to register for the vaccine for those that were interested. It is not mandated at this time. So many of us have signed up for the vaccine. We are waiting. Department of Health will send an event code to myself, and then I will send it out to all the staff. And once we get the event code, we'll be able to register for the vaccine. Well, we're already registered. We'll be able to get an appointment for the vaccination. I am part of the Joint Information Task Force, which is a community partnership that includes representatives from Gila Regional Center, long-term facilities, long-term care facilities, Department of Health, detention facilities, first responders, both Cobre and Silver districts, Western City of Bayard, Village of Santa Clara, Town of Hurley. So I do get a lot of updated information through those weekly meetings that I attend. And based on today's meeting, part of the discussion was looking for points of distribution. So we did volunteer to use Cobre High School parking lot as a point of distribution for vaccines if it is needed by the community to be able to do so. We also have tomorrow the HMS mobile clinic. We'll be providing COVID testing and influenza vaccines tomorrow at the Cobre High School parking lot from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock for any community members. And that's all I have on my report. Any questions?
Have we got any direction on the state on an anticipated reopening?
No, we don't. We still have not received the toolkit for secondary schools. As far as the elementary schools, they are working on reassessing and reevaluating because currently the guidance says that for those of us who are in red and had not yet started hybrid, that we are to continue with remote learning. So we have received no additional guidance from the state at this time.
What about for SPED?
Yes, we have been able to bring in special ed small groups K through 12. So most of the schools in our district wanted to wait until this week. So we did have Bayard Central, Hurley, and the high school did start bringing in special education small groups this week, and we are providing transportation for those who need it. And then next week, Snell and San Lorenzo will also bring in small groups as well. So by next week, we will have all schools in our district bringing in special ed small groups.
How has that rollout gone? It's only been one day that's been in effect?
No, Bayard actually started last week with a few. Hurley will be starting tomorrow, and the rest of them have, Cobre started today, and Central started today. So it's been going well. We have not had any issues. Next week, pending that we are testing at least 10% of our staff, which we're on track to do that. We would also be able to bring in small groups for K1 and 2 for high-risk kids that need some face-to-face support. So we do have some of our schools that are looking to bring in a few kids. They were doing that before the Christmas break, and they want to go ahead and continue with some of those groups starting next week. That'll be the first week that we're able to bring in non-special ed kids, but only for grades K1 and 2.
So when kids get picked up for the bus, is there any documentation of them being tested, or is it just assumed? And is there any kind of monitoring at the bus stop before the bus gets there?
We have right now we only have a few kids that are on the bus. So the transportation department has enough personnel to go ahead and handle that because they have the driver and an aide on each one of the buses. So yes, they are doing the monitoring of the students. And then that information gets shared with the nurses.
They don't document the tests and the temperatures?
The temperatures, yes. And then the information is shared with the nurses who house the information.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Okay, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the board, we're starting now with unfinished business with item B, C. This is a reopening of the pods, and then C is the fall sports restart. Let me just share with you, this morning there was an all-morning presentation, documentation, preparation for the upcoming legislative meeting with the board, the superintendent and so forth. And what was mentioned by the superintendent's report in terms of athletics, and Nelson Diaz is on right now, I just saw. So Nelson, feel free to comment on this. But we were instructed that we, as of this morning, and this was Howie Morales also being on the site, talking to us local. We have no direction yet, clear direction, whether they're going to reopen up for football and or the practice before or on February 1st. So with that in mind, we're not going to recommend action on here. But Nelson, can you just be real quick about letting them know what's going to happen in tomorrow's meeting with the athletic directors and Sally Marcus, okay?
So just reiterating what Mr. Mendoza had just said, there is no direction from the state at this time. We do have a meeting tomorrow at 8:30. Hopefully we can get a little more direction then as to what the plans are. So at this point, there is nothing that the state is providing, no guidance as to when we're going to be able to open, or even if fall sports will even happen at this moment. As soon as I get an update, I can provide that information to Mr. Mendoza, and he can forward it to you guys as well. So at this time, like I said, we're not recommending anything at this moment.
Well, any questions, any board members or anything right now?
So there's no conditioning or anything else like that going on?
Nowhere in the state as of right now is that happening.
Okay.
Maybe we'll know something tomorrow, and there are superintendents that are pushing it, wanting to do that. But the big thing from Howie then says that it's hard because not even at the collegiate level, New Mexico State and the universities are being allowed. You see in the news that they're traveling out of state to play their games and to practice. So as soon as we know something definite, we definitely will let the board know, and then we can continue. So at this point, Mr. President, members of the board, the administration, along with Mr. Diaz, recommends that we table B and C until we have concrete information.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
I'll second then.
Or you made the motion? I'm sorry, Mr. Guadiana.
No, I forgot to say my name. Sorry.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Second by Mr. Cordova.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Okay. Any other questions? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
myself, yes. Motion carries.
Okay, next item is band sectionals, and I noticed that we have Ms. Montoya online. Ms. Montoya, can you comment? And then I'll make a recommendation to the board, please. Ms. Montoya? She's on the phone.
Sorry. Band will continue doing the one-on-one instruction of pulling in the students at this, well, starting next week, following all guidelines that they had in place.
No, that's one-on-one, and and they're not going into the building. They're just entering from the outside. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. So the administration recommends that band continue to instruct one-on-one, and until we hear about the reopening of the pods, we'll come back with the band and allow them to have more students at one time. So that's a recommendation, Mr. President.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Gomez, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Cordova, second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. You mean they've been doing the one-on-one throughout this time?
no, they haven't.
Okay, because you said it would continue.
They had stopped before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yes, it's a recommendation to continue.
I also had a question, Mr. President. When the band started doing it, did the board have to take action, or did they just start doing it on their own? If so, do we have any part of it, or who gave the permission?
That's
If I may, we were allowed it, this is early in the fall, to bring at-risk students on a one-on-one that needed help. And then by checking with Sally, Marcus, and them, and they were allowed, the band, to do individual instructions one-on-one, so long as they were following all CDC recommendations like distance, 6 feet apart, they all wore masks, and it was only one-on-one. It was like bringing in kids that were at risk, and that's how they approved it.
I understand the one-on-one being brought in, but approval for, not all the band members are special needs, right?
Mr. Gerhard, are you on? Please, if you could answer that question.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Mendoza. No, not all our members are special needs. The at-risk part in our determination is we dealt with several that are in special ed that are failing, and those are our primary concern focus. We had about 50% of the band in Q1 failing, and that ratio did go up. We managed to target the special ed and some of the freshmen, bringing them in to give them some encouragement to help them, and those grades did improve. So the academic seems to be our biggest point of focus.
And you're not having more than one person at a time?
No,
I can jump in on a little bit on that. So we were treating band at that time as a pod. And we did have them for a minute there. It was a 4-to-1, but that was quickly, that quickly ended. So we had stopped that. I think they only met maybe twice and before we were not able to do so anymore. So as far as the continuation, they want to continue in a modified state as at a 1-to-1.
And this would be for students that are failing and not necessarily special needs?
It's going to be for all students, especially the failing and the special needs.
Oh, my main question is then, what service are we providing for other kids that are not in band that are failing?
We have after school, we have tutoring set up within the office hours and then also in the evenings set up for the students.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
But as you just characterized it, Mrs. Montoya, it's for all band students, whether failing or not?
No, the failing students. If they're failing a class, then we bring them in.
Okay, and I appreciate Mr. Diaz's giving us the information about the 4-to-1 pod, because we didn't know that, and really surprises are not good things. But I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad we're aware of it now. And hopefully going forward, it'll remain a one-on-one from this point forward.
Yes.
But I didn't get it clear. This is just you, Mr. Gerhardt, and one student at a time, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Cordova,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. We just need to make sure that that is just a one-to-one, because if we start having more than that, then what's the difference in having that and having the pods?
Yes, sir.
Moves us to public input. This time, is there anything from the public?
Yes, sir.
Victor?
Yes, sir. We have Ana Treviso. She's requesting, how can band be doing one-on-one and no other sport?
Okay.
Is there a response?
Any other
That is
thing?
all. That is all.
Victor, did you get an email? I had a parent send a public input into the Facebook page, and I told her to email it, but I'm not sure if she did.
Let me double check. Before the meeting started, I hadn't received anything.
I guess I can just read it if you want. She just was requesting that the board address hybrid learning because there's too much curriculum in half the class time and it's hurting our kids. And that was from Yvette Thomas.
The only thing with that, Maureen, is that until the state allows us to, that's where we're at. I know that the state said that those people that were already on hybrid, they were looking at them continuing, but those that weren't were still going to continue with distant learning. That's what I heard from the state the last time.
But I think our question was the quantity of instruction is a little burdensome for those people that are doing the hybrid. And from what I've observed with my kids is the quantity is actually much less than if they were attending a full day session. I don't know how it is for other kids. So am I correct in my observations that the curriculum is actually less strenuous than it would be if they were in class?
Joyce? Let me bring Joyce up here and you can ask her that question.
Okay.
Also, Maureen, can you have that parent contact Joyce tomorrow? And we can have a call?
Yes, I sure will.
Okay, Joyce, is the question. Mr. Guardiana, go ahead.
My observation, the question has to do with the burden, maybe an overburden of students given the current curriculum for the online sessions.
Mhm.
And my observations are that the online sessions have less of a load of learning than they would if they were in class.
So we are still having teachers follow and use the grade level standards, the Common Core state standards, to use those to address the curriculum that is happening in the classroom. But as far as the quantity of what is being taught would be at a slower pace right now, virtually, as opposed to what it would look like face to face. But we are still using and addressing grade level standards.
Okay, it's too bad we can't have that interaction with the person that made the comment. Thank you.
Any other thing, Victor?
Mr. President, I'd like to see what the address would be to Mrs. Treviso on her concern about why it is we're going forward with band and not doing it with any other class. And considering this, especially if this is an indoor activity, or is it outdoor?
May I answer that? So band is an academic class. So their class is for a grade and a credit. So it's not a sporting after school activity. It is a participation where they do receive a grade and a credit. So if they're failing the band, then they can lose a credit. So we do have to bring them in.
So that would relate to their specific performance in band as opposed to any other class?
What do you mean?
If they're failing in math, for instance, would they then come in for band because they're actually failing, or is it be just because they're failing in band?
If they're in band and they're failing another class, Mr. Gearhart does bring them in to try and get them motivated to go and get the tutoring help that they need.
Okay. Okay, I think that might help address Mrs. Treviso's questions. Thank you.
All right.
Mrs. Montoya, I've got a question. Are any kids coming in for the high school for math or English or any other classes, or just for band?
Right now, it's only the special ed students that are coming in. What we're doing with the other students is we're getting them involved in the tutoring for the math and the English. We're also trying to set up the tutoring for the science and histories.
Bringing them into the school?
No, not bringing them into the school. No one's coming into the school right now except for the special ed students.
Okay, but even like the band, like doing it outside, you're bringing those kids in for just on the outside?
Right now, we're not bringing anyone in. We weren't going to start the band till next week.
Because it's my understanding that we don't have permission to bring any of the secondary kids in other than the special needs kids. Am I
We're
right?
only allowed to bring in the high-risk students. So
I don't know about the high risk. I know about the special needs. And that's one of the things that us as board members are going through, like Mr. Diaz and them are saying, Sally Marquez wants to play. They want to set up pods. They want to set up sports, but the governor's office is saying no. And that's what we're up against. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, bring us to administration.
Yes, sir. I'm happy to report on this donation. It's something that that's going to improve our technology and our distance learning. And Victor, I need you to present on this. And can you also, are your guests with you, sir?
Yes. Hello, Mr. President, members of the board. I do have Amanda Morales. She is the CEO of United Way of the Southwest.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Hello, everybody. Again, as Victor said, my name is Amanda Morales. I am the CEO for United Way of Southwest New Mexico. And I just kind of wanted to briefly talk on the grant that we recently provided to the Cobre School District. We received this request back in the fall for assistance in purchasing 104 document cameras for all of the teaching staff who is currently obviously teaching virtually. And when we saw this request, we saw this as an opportunity to be able to provide some sort of assistance to the community. We obviously know that this virtual teaching, virtual learning is not easy for the students or the teachers. And so we were able to use some of our discretionary fund that we have as a nonprofit organization to fund this grant. And so we were able to get that all taken care of by the end of December. And I believe based on a phone call with Victor today, he does now have all of those cameras in hand. And again, we're just really happy that we were able to provide this grant to the school district.
Victor, can you kind of
we will start distribution on Wednesday of this week. Currently just did all the inventory and sign out sheets for each staff. We will begin on Wednesday afternoon.
Any
Want to
questions?
thank you for everything, Ms. Morales.
Of course, our pleasure. That's what our organization is here for. We want to support anybody who's doing work in education. We have a couple of other focus areas as well, but education is very important to us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Morales. I also wanted to ask, what specifically is a document camera, Victor?
Document camera is part of the request that you were brought up back in the fall whenever you were saying staff needed technology for the classrooms. This is one of those items. It's basically a lot of the teachers do hands-on worksheets, so they'll be able to display this and do their work and share with the students, or they can actually use that to stand in front of, so they don't have to place their laptop in a position to teach their class.
Okay, so it's not like a scanner. It is a full camera, and they can just point that where they need to.
They can point it any direction. It's a flexible camera. It can be used as a camera. Well, you can scan, like basically take a picture of whatever it is that you're.
And so can they actually write on a document and that be seen, or that would just be part of what's being filmed?
That is part of what's being filmed.
Okay.
Whatever they have their camera pointed at, the student will be able to see.
Okay. Well, I thank the United Way very much, and thank you, Victor, for rolling that out as well. And we appreciate your assistance, Ms. Morales.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Morales. Thank you very much.
Do you have a recommendation, Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, that you approve and allow us to accept the donation from United Way, southwest of New Mexico.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Cordova.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
I'll second. This is Gilbert. But can we add that we will send a letter of appreciation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any other questions? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Cordova,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. Moves us to finance.
Under finance, we have a budget adjustment request. Title I, it's 24,101. It's a budget increase. Terry, are you online?
I'm here.
Can you go ahead, please?
Yes, in the email, there was a budget adjustment for Title I, a budget increase. The amount was 13,000. It included your packet included the bar, the award letter, and the justification. The justification was in Excel format. And if you look down midway to the page, it has the justification, which is for the units of study to enhance literacy. And that's what will be purchased with the amount of the bar. Any questions on Title I?
Joyce, you wanna?
Are we, do we have all the material that we normally need? Is this something we're purchasing for the second semester or?
This is the increase for the carryover amount that we received from Title I. If you have questions, I think Ms. Varela's there on the program side. They can answer. All I'm doing is budgeting what was requested of me from the program side.
Okay.
You're on mute, Joyce.
Sorry. We had been purchasing we have purchased units of study for teachers in grades K through 12. And the principals asked if they could also have a copy of the units of study. So that's what this additional funding will be used for, is to purchase units of study so that the principals can better support the teachers with the instructional materials.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Joyce. Do we have a recommendation, Mr. Mendoza? You're on mute, Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Joyce, for muting me. Anyway, the administration recommends that you approve the budget adjustment request as presented by Terry, our finance person.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move. This is Gilbert.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Gomez, second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Is that right? Any other questions? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. Moves us to item B.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, we have a budget adjustment request. It's the gear and the ESSER, line item 24306 of the initial budget. And again, Terry, can you please explain this? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. The gear
the GEAR and ESSER. GEAR is for Governor's Emergency Education Relief, which falls under the CARES, and ESSER is for Elementary Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. So under the GEAR, you received in your email, you received the award letter. You also received attachment A, which indicates the amounts. They had us budget under one fund for the two different CARES monies. So under your exhibit A is CARES Act, GEAR, and HEPA filters Fund 24306. So if you look down on page 2, where we have Cobre, so we're receiving 41,406 for GEAR, which is being budgeted and was written in the application for additional hotspots. And then the 44,184 under the ESSER is for the filtration machines that we are to purchase for. It will take the place of what was originally supposedly required as the MERV 13 filters. They reduced the requirement, and Mr. Peru is on, so if you have questions on the specific units that we are to buy with the ESSER, he's on for questions as well. So the total of the bar is 85,590, but it's very specific on the 41,000 is GEAR and the 44,000 is ESSER.
If I can just mention also, like Ms. Holguin was just talking about, one of the things that I was really pleased with is that they recommended the systems that we had called and asked. Jaime and I had been doing some research, and I think I remember telling you guys about the Rheem filtration systems that we can put into the ductwork at each area. And those are the ones that they're recommending that we go after instead of trying to do the MERV 13s, since our systems can't handle the MERV 13s. So we will be going also with the with that, with the Rheem filtration systems, and they will actually work better because they purify the air and sterilize it as it goes into the classrooms. We will put them in the ductwork right as it comes out of the system to go towards those classrooms. The 44,000 won't cover everything. It'll cover the majority of our classrooms. We will need to do, from Senate Bill 9 possibly, do some money so that we can also do the offices, like the central office and the other offices in some of the schools.
And if I could just expand on the GEAR money, the GEAR money is only to be used for internet access for students without access. So all the hotspots, we will go ahead and pay for them since they've all been for students out of the GEAR fund.
I have a question for Mr. Peru.
Yes, sir.
Would this include for the large areas such as the gym, the music room, the auditorium, those things?
Yes, sir. The gyms will actually take, let's say our high school gym, it has 4 units up on top, and those are the air conditioning units. Where we're going to get a little different is we're going to have to try and figure out what to do, because we actually don't have like HVAC systems set up like we do in the other gyms. Our main gym at the high school is set up old style, so it has the air conditioners up on top, and then we have those heaters that are in the corners. I'm sure you've seen them when you walk in. They're those heaters, and there's no way to filter the air through there. So we're going to have to do a little bit more research for the main gym. The other gyms do run on the other systems, like the geothermal system is at Snell. We also have the geothermal at Hurley, so we can do that. And then we have regular HVAC systems, hybrid HVAC systems in the other schools. The only one gym that we'll struggle with is going to be the high school, and then San Lorenzo. I just thought about it. San Lorenzo also has that type of heating system.
Okay. And is there anything on that you can anticipate that we'll find for a solution for those?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Jaime and I were visiting about it last week. We're looking at a few systems, but I don't want to bring them to you yet until we make sure that that it's something that'll work. So as soon as we find out and if they work, we'll let you know. You know, right now we should for sure have everything covered for the classrooms, so we can take care of the academic side of it. So we'll have to work on that gym and see what we can do to get that taken care of. You know, I don't know if we'll have to change the systems that we have up there or what, but that's what we're researching also to see how much it is. One of the things that's going to be really good for us is that we don't have to hire somebody to do those systems. The reason that Jaime and I wanted to go with those systems is because Jaime can install those. And it's good that we have him on board, so we don't have to pay labor cost. All that money will go to buying the equipment, and then Jaime will just install all of them.
Very good.
So that'll save us some money.
Good. Good. Thank you.
You bet. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, George.
You have a recommendation, Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, I'd like to recommend that you approve the budget adjustment request as presented by Terry.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move. This is Gilbert again.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
It's Gabe, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Holguin. Any other questions? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin.
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana.
Yes.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Cordova.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carried. Moves us to Superintendent Report.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, this is a special request from myself, your superintendent, on the date of January 25th, that Monday. I am not able to attend the meeting, and I'm requesting, it's a doctor's appointment that I have to keep. And I'd like to recommend to the board that we change the meeting date to the next day on the 26th, which is Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And this will give me a continuation of perfect attendance for the last 8 years. I have not missed a board meeting, so I would like for you all to please approve canceling the meeting on the 25th and changing it to the 26th. Thank you.
This is not an action item, so I'll just ask if it's okay with everybody.
We okay with that?
This is Gabe, I'm good with that.
This is Gilbert, I'm good
Thank
with
you.
it.
Thank you, guys. Thank the board, because it's hard to come up here after you've had your body shaken up with your physicals. Okay, so I appreciate that very much. So Irene, did you pick that up? Okay, thank you on that. And then also one more item, it's not on there, but I think it's appropriate that I bring it up. It was a good meeting today with Howie Morales and a lot of Mr. Souls, our senator, that addressed the superintendents and chartered schools also in anticipation of what's coming down in terms of finance. It is reported that because of this new stimulus package that was approved by Congress, New Mexico stands to receive about $400 million under the new CARES Act, which is the other one. And they also announced that the legislature intends, now don't hold your breath, they intend to give us back our money that they garnished from our initial money that we were entitled to for the CARES Act. And if I'm not mistaken, it was about, Terry, if you're still on the line, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what they owe us is about $140,000. Is that correct, Terry?
Yeah, I'll have to look, but I think it was right around there. Like I'm thinking 121, but I'm not sure unless I research it.
Remember, Terry, the original was $370,000, and they garnished about 41%.
Right,
So
but
maybe-
remember we got the full amount, but they had taken it to cover what
So it's
what they
121.
took from SCG. So we actually got the CARES money that was awarded. It was just to cover the deficit that we had in SCG.
Okay, but I'm looking at figures here, but it looks, well, I get 142, but I may be wrong, but it's good to know that we're getting, whether it's 120 or 140, it's coming down. Let's just cross our fingers that that additional money will be here. And this can help, like George's situation with the filters, and buy more PPE equipment, and let's see what else they tell us we can spend it on. Okay. And in terms of the state budget, they said it's looking better than what it was in June. Okay. They said we're slowly recuperating and coming up, and there's actually going to be some money to hopefully come in with a pay raise. But then I'd hate to even mention this to the teachers yet, with a percentage, because keep in mind, they're going to get killed again with their insurance, okay, family insurance and so forth. Remember, they cut it down to, and now they're going to have to make up the percentage. So whatever they give, it looks like it's just going to be to cover the insurance again. But anyway, the other good news is not to hold the districts harmless. On a good example is transportation. We didn't run transportation, okay, this year. So we reported 0 kids rode the bus on the 40th and the 80th day, but they're saying they're going to base our money for covering us for transportation based on last year's attendance, because it's not fair. It's a different time that we're going through. So they're working with us there, and they're also going to work with us on a loss of enrollment. And maybe that's one thing I'll get a report to you all. The next board meeting is where we are on our actual enrollment, or how many kids have disappeared and gone to other districts or whatever. But there's also a hold harmless clause on that coming up. So, Mr. Sepulveda, that completes my report. And I think we need to know, I think I saw Toya on as an attendee. So
Yes, I'm
here. So Toya, can we go? Go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. So
Good
since
evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Since we're now in the second semester, I've been getting a lot of questions of what plans for graduation are. A lot of seniors are hoping that they'll get to walk.
Okay, that's a good one that we could bring back at the next board meeting. Have Ms. Montoya and Ms. Peru give a report on what their plans are right now for graduation, okay? And
Okay.
and then I will also see what else the state tells us as to how much we can do or what we can do, okay, Toya?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Board members, any questions for Toya?
No. Okay. Moves us to items for next agenda, and one of them will be what Toya just said. Graduation plans. What's next? Anything else?
Mr. President, you overlooked the public input.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's jumping ahead of myself here. I'm writing it down, so I jumped ahead.
That's okay.
Public input. Victor, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here. We do not have any. Oh, hold on. Ana Treviso just barely posted. I also wanted to say a huge thank you to Maureen Peru. I don't think people realize just how hard she works. All info that we got on our phones and emails is greatly appreciated. That is all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, if I could, I had a concern that was brought up to me, and that was a question on the tracking software we have for whenever students are on the computers, that the IT has a tracker that can, well, it was purchased anyway, that they can track the person's use on that. And the question came to the effect of, if it's not the school computer, if it's their own computer, does that tracker still monitor that? Also, does it monitor the emails and emails that are outside of the Gmail format as well? And the concern relates to if a child is using a parent's computer or something along those lines, how much access is there for what is on that computer, and whether the parents have agreed to allow that kind of access to it.
Victor, can you comment, or do you have a comment on that?
Yes, sir, I can comment on that. So when it comes to the tracking software that we have, which is Go Guardian, that is only on our district-owned devices. And anything that the student does on their email account, as far as someone's personal device, we cannot track what they do.
Okay.
But if they're using the school hotspot, you can track how many minutes or whatever time they are on using the school hotspot, right?
Currently, sir, we don't monitor those hotspots. We could get an audit from T-Mobile for the usage, but we're only able to see the status of what the student does in a day.
Okay.
And if a person has a Chromebook, that's their personal one, that would not be affected in the same way that it can differentiate between the school Chromebook
Yes,
versus
our devices are licensed and registered.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things that we're urging is that they continue to use the district device, especially when testing and everything is coming, because a lot of your personal things aren't compatible, or they're just not up to date. A lot of our issues when it comes to students is mostly personal devices, so they're not able to access a lot of those things.
So this also affects then the teachers' computers as well, correct?
What do you mean?
Did we issue the teachers' computers, and would they be the same ones that are affected by the tracking?
No, that is different. We have to be in compliance when a student is on the internet when it comes to technology. So in order for all this to work, we had to make sure we had a program to be able to monitor what they are doing on the internet.
Okay.
I think I emphasized on this during that one-on-one with you.
Yeah, but the question came up, and there's some people, well, at least one person that has a feeling that the capacity to track is still beyond just the student. And so I'll talk with them, and if they can give me instances that would validate
they
that.
can definitely reach me, and I can explain it and do a one-on-one with them on what it's all about.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
There's another question that actually I have as a parent. There's a fee for access for materials after school hours, such as reading materials that have been assigned. And that is the burden of that is on the family. Why is that? And why aren't we paying for the part of their access to do their homework outside of school time?
So you're saying that there's a fee for some of the curriculum that they're on?
Yes, the teachers informed them, and I think there's also a message on there that if you access some reading materials, that if it is after school hours, you have to enter a subscription, and you'll be responsible for paying for that subscription.
Again, maybe you can please refer them to our department, and we'll get with Joyce and Dr. Carrillo on what this staff member is actually pushing out there or
Because
assigning.
Mr. Guadiana, we're not aware, so if you could reach out to us and give us more information, we can look into it. Because currently the district is not requiring students to pay for any subscriptions to anything that we're aware of, even for after-school programs, because after-school programs are funded through the extended learning time.
Okay, and I'll get you that information because I know it's happening in one of my daughter's classes.
Okay, and we can look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, now we moved us to items for next agenda. I
I have
learned
none,
that what Tonya brought up a minute ago. What else?
I have none at this time, Mr. Guadiana. I'll know more when we get through with the superintendent's meeting on Thursday.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd like to add a report from the budget committee. We still haven't put a budget committee meeting for this month yet, so I'm hoping we're doing that very soon. But I'd also like to add to be put on the agenda is board expenses. The presentation last month's meeting talked about the upcoming possible workshops, and there was also reporting of the hours that semi-report of the hours that we've taken, and I'd like to see actually data on the hours that we've taken rather than saying exemplary or intermediate or whatever the case was. Like to see actual hours, but I think it's very necessary to be very transparent about what the board gets. One of the things I'd also like to see, I'm going to post how much I get paid for attending meetings, and I don't know if the general public is aware that we get paid for every meeting that we attend. And I think those are things that people should know. And I'd like to get that information for every one of the board members and have that information posted. I'd be happy to post it on my website, but I think that's information that people need to know. And we can use that in terms of assessing where we are on fulfilling our requirements, such as strategic planning, assessing the needs of the students, looking at curriculum, determining student-teacher ratios, the different things that really make a difference on how well we perform, including assessing and setting up performance requirements for superintendent and making assessments accordingly when we look at contracts. So I'd like to add board accountability and expenses to the agenda, please.
As far as the hours, those are kept by the state. I can call and get a copy of how many hours each one of us have attended.
I would appreciate that.
And I think in fact, here just recently, I think I received a thing on how many hours each one of us had. I'll look for it and get it. If not, I'll get one from the state, which they keep track of how many hours we've attended.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Cordova, so move.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.